Hello, and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we updated the Festival Buddy 2 plugins alert system. Previously, it could only show one alert at a time, and if a new alert showed up, it overwrote the old one. Now it shows as many as there's vertical space for. Today, we are going to package up releases for Festival Buddy 2 and for Detracker. Putting together a release involves looking back at the changes we made, both to be aware of what's in the release, make sure we don't put something in there that we didn't mean to, and so we can make sure our release notes are up to date. The changes that we made are actually reflected in there if they're publicly facing. And once we put those out onto LOTROinterface.com, if we have time, I still want to look at the Festival Buddy 2's barter window, but it's not a big enough issue to hold up the release of everything else. So as always, feel free to jump in the chat with your thoughts and questions. In the meantime, we have a goose with a quest. Actually, let's see. Is everything moved around? I think everything is moved around. Cool, okay. Cool, actually, the goose does not, in fact, have a quest, but we are here for Fishy Very Fishy, just to test our luck here in the daytime on the near end of the festival. So, coming on into my instruments bucket, getting my well-crafted Levithron fish pole, swapping those out. I suspect it is just randomness at play and not really a pattern, but I feel like I've had pretty good luck with the easy fish if it's happening at night. And sometimes I'll fail on the very first cast when it's happening at day. And I think that's just randomness coming to play, and it really needs a few thousand more iterations to test. But it was just something I was getting a feeling for. Skagosi's in chat. Hello, Skagosi. Oh, and Cherokee needs to look at plugins, has yet to do that. Well, we could definitely talk about that today. One thing you may have already seen is in chat a link to the LOTRO plugin compendium, which is an optional third-party program that you can download to manage your LOTRO plugins. So it will show you a list of known plugins, not all of the plugins, but plugins that are known to work well with LOTRO compendium. LOTRO plugin compendium, I should say. And we'll give you a couple of click installations that will put all the files in the right place. I find it very handy. I've only used the Windows client, but it's definitely a game changer when it comes to trying out new plugins. So for those who don't know, Fishy Very Fishy has you catch 10 easy fish, 10, I want us to call them simple fish, and then moderately more challenging fishes. And people who have looked into it have decided that the chance of getting a bad fish goes up with each of those tiers, and you need enough tiers of fish getting incrementally harder that the chances of actually getting the correct fish seems astronomically small. But you know, space is full of astronomy, so I say we give it a shot. Something with how I've set up my cosmetic output does apparently render my fishing pole invisible, though. What have I done with that? Ow! My basic birding kit has snuck its way in. I see. That will do it. That will do it. They are apparently incompatible. So while I'm fishing here in the background, or in the foreground, if you have a chance, check out the LOTRO plugin compendium. When it starts up, it'll show you what, if any, plugins you have installed on the first tab here, and give you a place to add new plugins on the second tab. But do remember, if LOTRO is currently running, it's not going to notice any changes to your plugins directory until you tell it to go look again. And the way we do that is in the game, you go to the caret menu, come on up to System, and go over to Plugin Manager, and then this green arrow, that's the refresh button, and that tells LOTRO to go ahead and take another look at that directory. Otherwise, it does not pay attention to it while the game is running. In the sense that you can add or remove things and it doesn't really affect it. So, in the Add New Plugins, if you're looking for something, for instance, you might be looking at the Festival Buddy plugin that Little Redhead was just talking about, and so was I. Oh, I've already got it installed. That's not going to be good. Let's think of a different one. How about the Opaque Quest Tracker? You might click that and press Add, and at the bottom we can say it's the installation complete, or install complete. In the game, we press the green arrow button, we click on that, and we load it, and then we have an opaque area to put underneath all these words, just in case you were having trouble reading them against a contrasting background. Oh, we got to simple fish. You know, I feel like this area is fished out. So we're going to go somewhere else. Come on, goose. Or are you a swan? You're a goose. Excellent. Alright, so we got a new rock. Got a nice view of the pond. Let's do it. Oh, I was doing some birds of the Misty Mountains. I don't think we need to track that right now. Anyhow, so Cherokee, if you're still in chat, if you have any questions about plugins in general, or how to use them, how to install them, all that, feel free to shoot it into chat. Otherwise, don't worry about it. All right, another simple fish. Ah man, I should get like a red scarf so I match my goose. Too busy? Why are you ever too busy to look at your wardrobe? Don't they understand? I want it now. Hands, shoulders. If that were red? Oh, that's subtle. I like it. I wonder if I have any red dye. Let's see. Dye carry-all. Too busy. Oops. I have some crimson dye. Interesting. What would that look like? Too red. Well, Redhead says the festival orange. It is red orange. I don't have any of that in here right now. I'll have to go pick some up. Okay. But the ascot is pretty close to what the goose is wearing, so that's very promising. I'm gonna laugh if I take so long fishing up a fish I don't actually have time to do anything plugin related. But, yeah, that is the nature of the game sometimes. I wonder what other dyes I had though while I'm looking at it. Alright, purple sienna. Ooh. What would that look like? Oh, I closed my wardrobe. What was I thinking? Whoops, I pressed my strafe button instead of the actual button. Yeah, that's a mistake. Although, who knows, maybe that was a bad fish and it wasn't a mistake. Let's go take a look at this sienna dye. Does not have nearly enough red. And purple. Too much blue. Alright, got me curious. How does gold look? Should not look correct, but yeah. And we already know crimson's too dark. Walnut brown is going to be too dark of an orange, almost certainly. Yeah. And white. White would be funny given the overall aesthetic of my outfit. No. Okay, we'll hold out for when Rosenblum is around to give me a dye, or alternatively, if I go to a vendor and get some festival dye. Oh, but she does say the festival orange is red orange. So that should show up in the preview panel as an option. Let's take a look at that. Alright, what's it called? Sunset orange, fancy. Yep, that is very goose redneck colored. As long as that's the festival token one and not the mithril coin one, because I don't know. That's a little rich for my blood. Oh, hey, we're doing possible fish now. I feel like I don't want to have fished this place out, so I'm going to move to a different rock. Come, goose. Well, it's not a rock, but it's a nice quiet spot. It's got a very nice view of the forest over Bimble Woods, is it? Something like that. That, maybe moving was the wrong idea. Okay, so we're gonna come on into the plugins manager and pull up Festival Buddy. And I'm actually doing that specifically to come to the barter window for Farmer's Fair. And we can come on down looking for those dyes. I guess it's not all the way down, is it? There we go. Sunset Orange dye. We can get 6 of them for 30 Farmers Fair tokens. That sounds like a great deal to me. Okay, and that was from Dill Goodchild or Caltha Tunnelly. Okay, Dill Goodchild, please give me all of your dyes. Okay, so this is Rohan Green dye. We'll start with that. I have 1,500 tokens, so I think it is fine to go ahead and get, I don't know, 300 of them. Sorry, 300 worth of them. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Awesome. So we should have Sunset Orange, we've got 60, and Rohan Green, we've got 60. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and pull out apparently a stack of 50 of them, go on into the wardrobe, and apply to that ascot. And you know what? Let's go ahead and do both of them since we went ahead and got this stuff. Great. And we'll save the rest for later. Awesome. So that ascot, we're going to go ahead and set it to sunset orange and put it on and make it visible. Very cool. Whoops. So I feel like I match the goose a little bit better now. Hey Rose, what do you think?
No.
Technically the hat, the goose doesn't have a hat, but the goose also doesn't have like brown hair on its head, so.
Could do well.
I feel like it's an abstract resemblance.
Yeah.
Only other thing I wanted to do here is go try to catch the golden egg. Little Redhead did it on stream, so why not me? So let's go ahead and return ourselves to the Shire, Mickle Delving, so we can ride on over. It's a little bit faster than going from Hobbiton Bywater, which is where my milestone is set. It's also under my head, but you probably are familiar with it. Alright, from Mickle Delving, we ride overland. Yeah. The catching the golden egg has definitely gotten a lot slower since they changed it to once a day instead of once an hour. But I do wonder if you could kind of tilt the odds a little bit if you had a bunch of people who could sign up at the same time for you, because it feels like the round runs proportionally longer based off of the number of people that are in it. Maybe not 1-to-1, but certainly if you have 10 people, it feels like the round lasts a little bit longer than if you have one person. But if all those 10 people are just there to extend it, but not to compete for eggs, it feels like you'd have an easier time getting the special eggs. Maybe. So I'm wondering if you approached it like a raid, where you had 24-ish people there, and you had voice chat, and people were standing by to point out where the golden egg is. Maybe that could help. But you do burn 24 people's time and attention and quest resets. So I haven't tried it, but I wonder in my head. Okay, so while we wait for this to start, let's go take a look at the first of the plugins that we're going to be working with today. I'm going to go ahead and close down the LOTRO plugin compendium there. We are going to be working on Festival Buddy. Okay, so we have a README file that hopefully covers all the changes that we've made. So we know we're expecting to see German translations. We know we're expecting to see Hobnanigans changes, Farmers Fair barter items, maybe some stuff to do with the barter window, alerts. We definitely did some alert stuff, and a save file conversion issue. So those are what we're looking for as we review these files. And if we find something that's not in there, we want to make sure it's either added or isn't part of the release. Or is something that's an internal change that could never produce a player visible change. Changed a variable name or something, changed a comment. Those things don't warrant inclusion in the release note of something like this. The egg scramble has begun. Now I tend to run in circles, but that tends to make the camera a little dizzying to watch, so I might not do that this time. Now I tend to just pick up everything, even if it's a rotten egg, because I'd rather not have to tab through it, rather not have to guess, rather not have to play with camera angles. And especially if you're playing solo, it feels like the eggs don't spawn quickly enough for that to become a problem, although I do have my settings turned on for that post-processing. Oh, that's an advanced setting. Great. No, thank you. Okay. Well, it's a blue egg. That's so close to a gold egg. So yes, I pick up all the eggs just to clear the field. That way I can just press the delete key and kind of definitionally, if it finds something, it's something I want to go pick up. 10 seconds remaining. That's just enough time for a gold egg. But it appears it will not be. Music has changed. Quest is over. Oh, did I fail it? I did not collect enough eggs. How many did I have? 4 and a blue egg. Well, you know what? That's okay. We'll put the blue egg with all the other ones. And just crack these open for 2 Farmer's Fair tokens each, because I have the Fateful Toolkit equipped, otherwise it is 1. And that helps restore some of those that I just spent. Alright. Let's go somewhere more interesting. Okay, we're here in Dol Amroth. Dol Amroth, it being the capital of Western Gondor, is very peaceful seeming, but with danger on the horizon. I like to look down upon the citizens of Dol Amroth, so we're just going to come to a higher vantage point. Okay. So, looking down on the citizens in the Court of the Font, let's go ahead and look at plugins. So, very likely we won't move from here for the rest of the stream. Fantastic. Okay, so we have just reviewed the README of what we expect the 2.1.3 changes to be. It would be good to make sure that we have updated the internal number. We have not. Let's start there. Glenel says, this week, adding Tattered Shadows to Titan Bar. Yeah, now that the festival is over, I think next stream is definitely going back to finishing up the Titan Bar currencies change. And then it'll just automatically be there. And any new currencies also. Okay, so we're going into plugins, cube plugins, and we're going to go ahead and open up the festivalbuddy2.plugin file. Looks like this, and specifically we want to make sure that that version has changed. And if there were a .plugin compendium file, that would be good. You know, I'm not seeing one, and I feel like we could have that. Hey, little one. Yeah, you coming for scratches? Wow, no, you're going to be on stream, you fool. You fool. I know. You're not a fan of this. Okay. Well, your tail is still on camera. Yes, it is. Hey. You know I can't type very well when you're in front of my keyboard. Yes. Also, that's my water glass. No rubbing into that. Hey, if you're not going to be in my arms, maybe you need to be somewhere else. Alright, but at least you're not in front of my keyboard. Okay, so, however, your tail's underneath where I want my arm to be. There we go. So, are you praying? I don't think you rubbing the microphone is very helpful. Okay. Remove the environment. What I want to do is go ahead and close these down so that I can move this out of the way. Holy moly, you are in my way, little one. Yes, I can't see the screen because your body is opaque. Yes. Hey. Yep, there's your tail again. Okay, we need to dissuade you from being here. And picking you up is what's going to do it. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and move these away. Documents, plugging along. Oops. Glenell thinks they saw a cat. Yep, that was Cato. We're working with her to help her tolerate being picked up a little bit more. But normally we're like coax her into it. She's calm, everything's calm, there's nothing going on. And then she can kind of pretend like it's not happening. But, just being yoinked up disgracefully, it's not her thing right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move that out of here because I want to use the LOTRO plugin compendium to download Festival Buddy and get that auto-generated LOTRO compendium file. Festival Buddy. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and add that. Great. And then we have that .plugin compendium. We'll copy that over. But then we're going to go ahead and delete that cube plugins and bring this one back. Camera shy, thinks Glenell. Well, less so if she's like in a bed next to you or parallel sitting next to you and then the camera is on her. But the problem is if she's right on the desk, there's no real good angle for this camera to see her. And right now she's on Little Redhead's desk getting pets that are more dignified than what I was giving her. So, okay. So we have now the Festival Buddy 2.plugin compendium file. Let's take a look at that. So this has everything that we need, but if we wanted to include an updated version, we can. Now, if we don't include one, plugin compendium will go ahead and generate one automatically. And in this case, we can see we have two descriptors. That seems fine. I don't really know what that means. Download URL, info URL, author. The only thing that's wrong is the version, and that was auto-generated from the other file. Name, Festival Buddy 2, ID. So if you don't have any dependencies, and we don't, and if you don't have anything weird going on with your plugin, it might be easier, maintenance-wide, to not bother with a .plugin compendium file, so that it's not there for people who don't use it, and it is there for people who do use it, and that's fine. So we're actually going to go ahead and delete that because everything looks fine. Cherokee said, had to run away, then come back. Well, welcome. So all I mentioned before, Cherokee, was the LOTRO plugin compendium is an optional third-party program that you can use to manage your plugins. So for instance, if I wanted to add in a new plugin like Mini Raid, I can go ahead and select it, click add. We can see it downloaded it, extracted it, and installed it, and everything is good. It's super nice and easy. We can see it got installed here. The README file, if you open it, it says move the file called DARF to your plugins folder. Awesome. That is where it is. I think I'll delete that. So remember though, if you add or remove any plugins while Lord of the Rings Online is running, you'll need to click this green arrow in the plugin manager, which you can reach by using the caret arrow, System, Plugin Manager, and then hit that green arrow, and then you'll see updated information about what plugins are available. Otherwise, if you make changes to this directory, like I'll go ahead and delete that and that, if you make changes there, LOTRO isn't going to pick up on that. It's not actively monitoring that directory for changes. You'll need to click that green arrow to get change to see those changes. We also have 10 raiders from Iconic Psychotic. Welcome to chat. Welcome to the Plugin Along stream here, where we talk about plugins in Lord of the Rings Online. So, if you like Lord of the Rings Online and or plugins, you've come to the right place. If you don't like those things, you may have come to the right place. It's harder to tell. Okay, so we've gone ahead and determined that we probably don't care about the .plugin compendium file. In fact, it's entirely possible that dtracker doesn't either. Oop, I've done the wrong thing there. Let's see if we can't take a look. We can see that the .plugin compendium for deed tracker also identifies 0 dependencies. That is correct. Everything else seems fine. So we could probably get rid of that and just take the default created one from plugin compendium, since we're not doing anything complicated for either of these two. And that reduces cognitive load when doing an update. It's one less place to make sure a version number is updated. Iconic says they started playing this game about 2 weeks ago and love it, been having a blast streaming it. Fantastic. Well, the plugin side of things is a lot more looking at code and a lot less running around in the game, unless we're testing things. So you're going to see some of that. Today we're going to be packaging up some plugin changes into releases, releasing both Festival Buddy 2 and Deed Tracker. Festival Buddy 2 we have active here. And this is just to help you out during festivals like the Farmers Fair Festival that is coming to a close. But it also has Spring Anniversary, Midsummer, Harvest Math, Yule, Hobnanigans, and the In-League/Ale Association. Okay, so we had closed down Visual Studio Code while we were deleting and adding some stuff. Let's bring Festival Buddy 2 back. There it is. So what we wanted to make sure was these changes are reflected elsewhere. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come see local change. Oh, of course. For technical reasons, these files are not being held in source control right now, which means they're a little out there as far as tracking changes goes. Oh well. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and wonder which deed Little Redhead just completed. It was one of them. What was it?
Striped eggs.
Oh, striped eggs. Excellent. Little Redhead is consuming eggs.
I think I've done all the eggs now.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go into Fork, which is a visual source control utility. You can get it at fork.dev. It is free to use for private individuals such as us. Okay, Little Redhead points out in chat, today is the last day of the Farmers Fair, so make sure to get and spend those tokens today. Now, canonically, I think Farmers Fair does not have an apostrophe, but I understand the desire to put it in there.
In the name, I think it does.
Iconic says they're a level 32 elf hunter. Awesome. Also a hobby coder for Android, so some programming knowledge. Awesome. We're using the Lua programming language for the plugin. I'm just scrolling down here to Farmers Fair, listed in the quest log with no apostrophe. Oh my goodness. Okay. Jerky is doing more role playing than leveling, it looks like. Excellent. Now, I personally think it should be Farmers Fair with an apostrophe, pluralizing, making farmers the plural, possessive, but apostrophes in coding are can be tricky, so I appreciate why they might have dropped it. Okay, so coming on in here, Festival Buddy currently has no outstanding changes, and that's because I foolishly moved a cardboard box earlier, and now there's a cat playing with it. Okay, so we have, let me go ahead and apply this. We have stashed our one debug options change that we don't want to be sending out to other people. It's just an internal testing utility. So stash that. And we have no changes to our working directory. That's awesome, except that I do like to pre-stage the text that we're going to put on the forums and LOTRO interface, so we're going to work on that now. Yes, Little Redhead is predicting that Kato is chasing her tail while she's in the box. Fantastic. You do you, you funky little cat. Okay, so I tend to put my website artifacts into source control, into the directory structure for the plugin, just so I have a historical record for them, but I don't include them as part of the release product. So under website here, there is LOTRO form descriptions and there's LOTROinterface.com descriptions. And we're going to go ahead and clone the previous one. We're going to go ahead and copy that. My goodness. What is that cat doing? And we'll go ahead and copy the LOTRO forums description version as well. They're subtly different. I tend to do a full list of changes on the LOTRO forums, whereas on the LOTRO interface I tend to do an abbreviated version, but it has all the instructions for installation. Okay, and let's go ahead and make this a little word wrappy. And go ahead and bring up the website that it is representing. So that is LOTROinterface.com. And we'll go ahead and search for dtracker. And then we'll realize we're doing Festival Buddy. So we'll save this one open for later, and we'll list B4's other, and there we go, Festival Buddy 2. Okay, so this is what we are expressing in the markup, and so the introduction doesn't need to change. Midsummer, English, partially French and German, stuff. Okay, I'm curious, have I updated that list of festivals recently? So just going to go ahead and do a quick snipping tool snip of this so we can compare. Okay, current, spring, anniversary, midsummer, farmers fair, harvest math, Yule, and hobnanigans. You know what? Let's add the League and Ale Association. Plus quick guide support for the In-League Ale Association delivery quests. Cool. We'll go ahead and get that. Installation and startup should not be any different. Known issues. I think Hobnanigans is no longer missing French or German. That was part of this update. So we're going to go ahead and kill that entry. Fantastic. And then we'll go ahead and add into this a list of release notes. Now, as far as versions go, your mileage may vary, but the three-piece version that I'm using here are often divided into major, minor, and fix. Major version bumps are for drastic changes that affect backwards compatibility, major new improvements, all that good stuff. If it's a substantially different thing, time for a major version bump. Minor version bumps and fixed version bumps, I tend to conflate a little bit more in my head. I'm sure there are people out there who have a better mental separation of the two. But this list of fixes up, oh, not that one. This list of fixes right here doesn't really feel very large. It doesn't feel very substantive. We didn't add any major new features. We just did some stuff. And so for me, that's a bump of the fixed number, not a bump of the minor version number. If we'd added a new festival, but hadn't changed anything underlying in the plugin, just new festival, new list of quests and all that, that definitely feels like more than just a little bit of work. So I would be tending towards a minor version bump there. And if we had completely rewritten the thing from the ground up, that's a good time for a major version bump. So that's why we have three numbers to represent the scale of the changes. If someone looks at, oh, I have 2.1.2 and now there's a 2.1.3, that should feel like a very safe update decision. That should feel like, oh, they didn't change anything meaningfully. There'll be some updates, some tweaks, some whatever, but nothing will break. Nothing will this can only mean good things if I choose to go from dot 2 to dot 3. Whereas if they saw going from 2.12 to 2.2.1, going a minor version, they should get the impression that there is something new that they're going to be missing out on if they don't get it. And if there's a major version bump, they could expect breaking changes. They should expect big changes in some way. But maybe something stops working. Maybe an old save file doesn't work as for the new system. Things like that. So we're communicating the scope of changes using this system. So what did we do? No idea. In this list, I like to go ahead and first of all, always have release notes are blah. This URL we're going to be fixing later. It points at the previous one for now. Once we have an actual release notes out there, we'll update the link. And then just a short description of what did we do. So I'm going to be lazy and put those changes into a different buffer so I can look at them at the same time. Cool. Fixed Hobnanigans parsing Hobnanigans play on field 1 and in French and German. Added farmers fair. Not really, added is true, but updated farmers fair. Barter items and better alerts. Yeah. Made alerts better. Okay, that's good enough for this. Release notes are here. Perfect. So that's all the text we need for the LOTRO interface side of things. Let's go ahead and get that going so that the validation side of things over here on the website can get going. So if you're already logged in, and we can see welcome before, oh, it just doesn't like being that small. Okay, well, that's too bad. If you're already logged in and you are the person who uploaded the plugin, then there'll be an edit button at the bottom of the description. So this is where we go ahead and say this is going to be version 2.1.3. It's also where we realize we forgot to prepare the file. So we're not quite ready for this, but let's go ahead and copy in all the text here. And now let's go to make a release version of this. So documents, plugin along releases. What I tend to do for this, documents, plugin along releases, is find the previous thing I did here, Festival Buddy version 1.2. It's behind my head right now. We're just going to go ahead and copy that, spawn it off, and we now have Festival Buddy version 2.1.3 in name only because it is just a copy of 2.1.2 for now. So we're going to go ahead and bring that up above my head for one thing. We're going to come on down here and come into Lord of the Rings Online plugins, Cube plugins. And this is where we're going to go ahead and copy those two files over. And in fact, let's go ahead and just start comparing these things. Using a third-party tool I like to use, Beyond Compare, for file comparisons, we can see wow, we do not want some of that. Hang on a second. We are comparing too much. But we did see that these two are the same, of course. We're going to come in and compare just Festival Buddy 2 to just Festival Buddy 2. That's going to make life a little bit easier. Okay, there are things that we do not want to include as part of this release. And there are more sophisticated release processes that will bundle up just the files that you want automatically, but I do like kind of having a hands-on approach to it. So things that are in our directory that we're not releasing include the source control information, the Visual Studio Code stuff, the documentation, the source files, the website, all of that is great. However, we have some changes to Alert, as expected. These are all the changes we made to make Alert better, so we're going to go ahead and take those. No GitHub, none of those things. Okay, looks like we got some German translation. Awesome. Thank you, Tellurian. And then quick add strings. Awesome. Fix that right up. Okay. We also added a new image file for the barter window. And we have changes to each of these files. So, starting with the barter items, we can see massive changes here. You know what? I could have sworn we had Yule and Midsummer update. What is going on here? Okay, apparently not. Okay, well, let's go ahead and add them. Yule, updated barter items. Oops. Midsummer. Cool. So we have at least captured that. So that was Midsummer, that was Yule, and that is Farmer's Fair. Fantastic. Sounds good to me. We're going to come into the barter window. Barter window, we made it, I think I did this off stream, but we made it so the barter window could be resized vertically. Let's take a look at that. When you do that, anything in the window, it's your responsibility to make it bigger or reposition it. And this is only resizable vertically, not horizontally, because that was an even harder fix that I didn't want to do. So what do we have to do when we resize this vertically? We need to adjust the size of the list control that holds all of these things. And we need to resize the height of the scroll bar. That's not handled automatically in this windowing system, which is feels like a standout to other windowing systems. So that's a bit of a bit of a gotcha. You've got to make sure to keep this in sync yourself. Also, a nice to have thing, when the window gets too small for this background, I go ahead and phase it out. So the background is no longer shown, because otherwise it does weird things. The background is what's giving us this bar, this little fancy bit at the bottom. And when we don't have enough space for it, we just stop showing it. And we use that space for visibility instead. And when we have enough space for it, we use it. So that's all the things we should expect to see for this. So we have some default height stuff. We make sure that the window isn't too tall for the screen. Maybe you've changed screen resolutions. We go ahead and use that setting, so we save it off when you change it. We set it to resizable, but we set a minimum and maximum width to make sure that you can't resize it in that direction. I feel like there's, in some windowing systems, you can say in which direction can this be resized, so that there's fireworks outside. Fascinating. What are they celebrating? Like sports, maybe? If there's a way to do that in the LOTRO API, I did not stumble across it in the small amount of time I spent looking. So instead, you just pin it between a minimum and maximum, so it can't move in that direction, and you let the other go as tall as they want it to go. Okay, great, great, and great. Oops. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. We also need to use that saved height for a couple of the other elements, the background, the list that's there. Awesome. And then if the size is changed, we want to go ahead and make use of it, resize those controls as we said, but do save off that height so it can be used on a future load. Fantastic. Apparently we have a blank line there. Oh yes, I was changing font sizes. Going down from 22 to 19 was such a large change in font sizes, it felt disproportionate. So instead, we just take off the bold, and it still has a noticeable look. And we're using that to separate out, say, Dill Goodchild's the festival vendor and the different pages that they have to sell. And just stripping off the bold, I think, made it big enough. Because LOTRO plugins are dependent on the LOTRO API for what fonts are available, we can't just say we want to go from 22 to 21 or 21.5. We don't have that flexibility, that freedom. Instead, we just have whatever they have exposed, and they exposed 22 and they exposed 19, but nothing in between. So stepping down 3 point sizes was just too much. All right. Oh yes, this was just a change to allow an override of the divider height because one of these dividers included a lot of text, and I want to say it was this one, maybe. This one or one like it just had a lot of vertical space, and we wanted to be able to override the default height in those cases. So if there's a divider height entry for that one, then respect it. Otherwise, don't. All right. Oh yeah, I was running into a problem where sometimes there are just multiple things with the same name that LOTRO will do, and sometimes when we try to get those in the system, there's a problem. This is just debug text though, so we're going to leave it in for the next time that we're having that problem. Awesome. Whoops. Okay, moving on to the next file. Chat logger. Okay, this is a part of the new alerts system, and this is great. So we're going to go ahead and accept that. Hobnanigans window. So not a lot of changes here, but they do allow us to support all 4 of the fields. And the problem there was that I, probably me, had made the assumption that all of the quests were the same. A game of Hobnanigans, field 2, 3, 4, I assumed also field 1. But there's just a game of Hobnanigans, or something like that. So we needed a different solution for that. Huh. Didn't even think that was open. Where is that? I would like you to not give me Dutch WhatsApp messages right now. Thank you. Okay. Images. We went ahead and removed the top from that barter window. It was causing resize problems, and it wasn't necessary. Okay, this was the fix for a save file. A friend of ours was coming back after a year hiatus because their life got busy, and I think they may have accidentally loaded up Festival Buddy 1, but if someone else does that, they'll encounter that same problem. And so that was just a fix to resolve that. Options window. So many Hobnanigans testing facilities. And I am not going to worry about too much of that. And the alert debug as well. Awesome. It's all in the stuff hidden behind the debug flag. All right, a bug typo fixed in previous README and this README. Love it. Okay, this might be premature, but I think we're pretty close to all of this being done. All right, so yes, a new quest, a game of Hobnanigans Flying Feathers versus Flying Feathers Field 2, Field 3, Field 4. The lack of the field number was breaking our attempt to get the field number, and so we've gone to a different way. Instead of using patterns, Lua's version of regular expressions, to extract out the field number, it just seemed simpler to not do that, to just spell out all the expected texts and what it meant, what team you're playing and what field you are on. And then there's no pattern matching needing, it's either in here or it's not. And the same thing for the quest ending. I should say the quest failing. Quest end text is probably a misnamed there. Oh well. Okay, all those string changes are great. And tokens. We've added the Thrang's Vault token for Farmer's Fair. Looks great. So that's all of the changes. And we can essentially do what we just did, which is compare Festival Buddy 212 to 213, and that's going to show us just the changes that are going into here. Specifically, we're going to see that Festival Buddy 2 plugin version has bumped up to 213. Awesome. And all those other changes that we've brought in. This is just the stuff that's changing, nothing else. Awesome. So we want to go ahead and package that up into a zip file. So what I like to do is just make an empty zip file, and it's going to have the same name as what we're releasing. And within these zip files, you need to start with the folder that is going into your plugins directory. In this case, the author folder, Cube Plugins. So we're going to go ahead and drag that in. And that is the structure needed for LOTRO plugin compendium to understand it. And that's the important thing, is consistency here. So it's the LOTRO plugin compendium seal of approval on how to do these. And we can see in the zip file, we now have underneath that the .plugin files, and then all the .lua files and other things that we're shipping out. So coming on back into the LOTRO interface, now that we've finished that process, we're going to replace the update, the released file with Festival Buddy 2 version 213. We've already copied in our text. If we're at all concerned about that, we can copy it in again. This is the LOTRO interface description. Coming on down, we could delete old zip files. We're not going to. We could change images. We're not going to. Allow updates and add-ons. Yes, yes, please. Please improve this if possible. And we're going to go ahead and update. Awesome. So what happens when you do that is you are going to get a little bit of information here. Your interface has been updated or has been submitted and is now awaiting approval from one of our file administrators. And this can take a while depending on stuff, because they might choose to manually review it. They may have automated processes. I'm not sure. But at some point, it gets approved. There are some things here that tell you what's up, some of the rules that they're looking for. And if they decline your submission, they may not contact you. So once you've done that, you're going to come back to the home page and see that it is just looking weird. So instead, we'll do a search, Festival Buddy. We can see Festival Buddy 2 says updated. If we come on over here, this file is currently awaiting approval from a file admin. You will only be able to download older versions of this file until it's approved. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and work on the forum release notes. And for that, we're going to come on down here. Go to release notes. Am I logged in? I am not. I should be. Ik ben geen robot. Great. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and mimic what we've done before. And this is really just a copy-paste of the README file, but done up in forum markup. And this is the kind of thing that you could just have a program that spits it out. It tends to be simple enough for me to just go ahead and make these changes manually. But yeah, this is a great place for automation. So I'm going to Sublime Text Buffer, and we're going to go ahead and convert it so it looks how it needs to. So what do we see? Version 2.1.3 release notes. Awesome. All of this is getting outdented once. And we're going to go ahead and list. Each of these sections will be its own list. So festivals, general, list, end list, and a bug fix. List and unlist. Now, within these, we can make a bullet point with this star notation. And in fact, we're going to do that in multiple places. Okay, but any place where we have a sub list going on, we want to go ahead and mark that with the list as well. So we're going to go ahead and get these marked here. And then we want to start and end each of these lists. So list, 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 list. And we want to go ahead and bring in an end list as well. Really? Cool. Okay, that's all of that. And the stuff up above, you know what, let's go ahead and get a word wrap here. Festival Buddy version 2.1.3 is now available. This update has numerous festival barter list changes and a few other fixes. Oh, I guess whatever was worth listing here. Okay, numerous festival barter list. Okay, that's that. Have updated that. Better Hobnanigans support. Yeah. Improved alert system, and a few other fixes. Okay, is that like everything? Let's go ahead and bring this in. Okay, awesome. A few other changes. I'm not even sure I'm going to call them fixes. I don't have a great way to double check that this markup is correct other than just trying it out. So we're going to go ahead and try to remember how this new form works. So based entirely on the old forum systems threading model, I tend to just reply to the first entry in the list here. Because before there was a tree-like structure to the threads, and so if you replied to something, it would show indented underneath that. So instead of that, I want these all to be conceptual entries underneath the first one. So I just reply here. I don't know if that's still necessary in this form system. I'm not on here often enough to really figure it out. But we can go ahead and preview this. We can see the link is good. We can see all of the lists are great. So we're going to go ahead and post that here. And we can see the link brings us back here. We can see it's updated. The approval process is now complete. So if we were to download this, we would get, presumably, the updated version. Fantastic. We'll go ahead and save our changes here. And here. So what does that mean? We have done a release. We're almost done, actually. We need to update the link to here. So we have 213. We're going to go ahead and grab that link, copy that there, and then how do we view word wrap? Alt-Z. Fantastic. That's super memorable. And we're going to replace this link here so that it links directly to that post. And for that, we're going to come in, we're going to do an edit, and we're only going to change the description, not anything else. And that tends to be an immediate approval. Okay, so we can see now if we go to the release notes here, we should come directly to the 213. Perfect. Everything looks okay. And we're going to go ahead and call that good. Now, in our source control, we now have some changes. So what we want to do is make sure we didn't do anything weird. This is 213, this is 213, this is release 2.1.3 artifacts. And we're going to go ahead and commit that. We're also going to come into the branch here. Oh yeah. Get that back. We're going to come in here and we're going to go ahead and give us a new tag. So new tag, this is 2.1.3. And we're going to push that out to GitHub. And now I know where in the code we need to go if we want to go back to 212, if we want to be at 213, or whatever. Stepping back and forward through time is what source control is all about. Okay, and that's everything. That is a release of Festival Buddy 2. Not really in time to use it for this festival, but all those improvements will be there going forward. And so that's nice to have. All right, there's a lot of folders open right now, so I would like to get rid of some of those. Or folders, files. A lot of stuff open on the screen. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is deed tracker. Now, it's going to feel pretty similar, although we haven't been doing this on screen very recently. We're going to just make sure that everything is in the README file that needs to be there. And we're going to go away from the version of Pi to 3.15. One of the things that I like to do is include the names of the updates when we're doing these things. And so update 39, Arena of Conflict, update 40, Beneath the Shadow. I like to have those names in here. That reminds me of a thing. I'm going to go look at something real fast. Okay, so this was through 41.1, but not 41.2. Neat. Anything change for deeds? Well, that's German labels. That's not going to be helpful. Okay, show me diffs, don't show me context. Fantastic. No deeds that I need to be worried about. Cool. Okay. Okay, so let's close Festival Buddy's view here. Let's look at deed tracker. Oh yeah, there are some uncommitted changes. We're in for a couple of minutes of that. Okay, so deed tracker. What is deed tracker? If you're not familiar with it, deed tracker is a plugin that helps you track your completion status on deeds. Now, this is not a very helpful view. It's a little out of date, given that it's an empty save file. So what we're going to do is we're going to... Really? We're not going to do the thing... there we are. Okay, LOTRO Companion wants to update. So in the meantime, we're going to come into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online. We're going to go into Plugins, Cube Plugins, deed tracker, and we're going to go ahead and run the import deed completion from LOTRO companion. And we're going to go ahead and import for Treebeard Affodil. That's this character. Fantastic. So, having done that, we're going to go ahead and reload deed tracker. And deed tracker is going to say, hey, LOTRO companion says that you've completed 1,667 deeds that are not currently completed in deed tracker. Would you like to import that? Yes, I would. Cool. So that brings deed tracker up to date. So this is the whole of it. So we can see in North Downs, for instance, that I have not completed roving threats. The North Downs' roving enemies. So that is a deed that is not yet complete. Same thing probably with Misty Mountains, Avondale, Angmar, and Forest Hill. And one of the things I really like to do is only show uncompleted deeds. There we go. So, you know what? This is a legendary server, but do not hide actively, not actively available. There we go. Okay, so roving threats, we can see, yep, that's what is missing here. Whereas in Gondor, we're still going through western central Gondor, so some of those deeds are complete, some of them are not. Okay, so that's deed tracker. We had some recent changes. We had a new hobby, birding. We have, in instances, there's a new section for Corsairs of Umbar, which is the Dragon and the Storm. And we can see that Leading the Charge is not correctly marked as not actively available. We can still see it. So we're going to go ahead and do something about that. Now, the wonkiness that is deed tracker is supported by Excel spreadsheets, because why not? So we're going to come into Cube Plugins deed tracker source files, and we're going to come into instances. And we're going to be confused why this is looking different than the last time I opened Excel, which was not very long ago. They have done some dark mode stuff. Oh well, it's fine. So, we can see that it is supposed to be, oh, I know what has gone wrong. There's a problem with how we're generating stuff at the moment, and data is split into two different places. And until we fix that, this is what's up. So we're going to go ahead and in a different place, mark this as not actively available. Perfect. Sorry, I was distracted by something, but I have found the thing that I needed. It is off screen for just a moment, but it will be done shortly. Okay. So there is a preprocessor that is converting, well, not even a preprocessor, a post-processor perhaps, that's converting some of our stuff and munging it all together into the deed data here. And this is where the not available information gets merged together. So if we come on in here, we should be able to see, in fact, we will show that. Let's go ahead and reload this plugin. Great. It's coming down. Okay, great. We can see the Dragon in the Storm is now correctly added. So let's come on in to our Visual Studio Code window and double check what else we think we've added and make sure it shows up correctly here. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of a bunch of these. Okay. So, 315. Stop hiding vocation deeds based on characters' vocations. So if you are a LOTRO plugin developer, I would caution you against calling the get vocation function. It is now meaningless since there are no more vocations, and that function always returns 0. But doing some testing on my system showed that the first time a plugin called get vocation after being loaded, or in the process of being loaded, introduced a 5 to 6 second delay before that function returned, always with the value of 0, that made it appear that Deed Tracker was spending much more time loading than really was. 6 seconds out of the 6.5 seconds it was taking to load on my system were just waiting for LOTRO to tell me that my vocation was 0. So we're going to fix that in this release, and hopefully that helps a bunch of other people who are seeing the same problem, if they are. I can't imagine it's only on my machine, but I did not do much testing there. Okay, a reputation, added the hardtack crafting events, added Veil of the Nine Deeds, added Amelia's Studies faction reputation deeds. Now, there is a new section in reputation that will show up if you mark this as a Veil of the Nine server. If you do that, then under reputation, there is Amelia's Studies, and these will not show up, really? These will not show up if it is not a Veil of the Nine server. And also, the Veil of the Nine deeds to defeat each of the 9 will not show up if this is not a Veil of the Nine server. And I put it in that way. Where is this? Oh, I see. Yes, I put it in that way because currently the Veil of the Nine event is only available on Angmar and Mordor. But landscape difficulty was originally only available on Treebeard and probably Shadowfax. May it rest in peace. And so that was the case until suddenly it was available anywhere. And so landscape difficulty deeds used to be, this is a landscape difficulty server, and now it's just, use them or don't use them for this character. Because if you're on one of those other servers and your character was already above level 10, or possibly 11, can never keep that straight, then it was too late. You were not going to get access to those deeds. And so it seemed unfair to penalize any character that exists, penalize a character for existing before those deeds came to non-legendary servers. So there we are. This is now include landscape difficulty deeds. There's a Veil of the Nine is available on this server because it is not currently available for any other servers, but maybe someday it will be. Who knows? Speaking of which, Affadil is a Dawn of the South. Thanks to defeats of, I'm going to say, the Grim Southern over on Mordor. Okay, so we've added those things. Instances, Corsairs of Umbar, we've added the Dragon and the Storm deeds. Birding, we've added birding deeds. Added more is added Monster Player Reward Season 1 deeds. Now, I have no idea if these are, real, but they're in the data, so I assumed they were. Actually, there is a thing I can do here. Where did I put it? Apparently nowhere. I'm going to load it back up. One thing I didn't check, and I should have, is whether these were marked as in use or not. So let's go ahead and double check this. protector of life. Yeah, it is not shown as hidden or not in use. So hopefully if you're a monster player, you know if that is correct or not, and if it's not, you'll let me know. Or a PVMPer. But for now, there is a monster player reward season 1 section of deeds. I should probably actually mark those as a limited time only. That seems like it would be a good idea. Okay, so that is title Protector of Life, and that would be in the war. Okay, so we have okay, limited time only is a 3. Fair enough. So what we're going to do is we are going to take these right here, and we're going to make a little bit of a code snippet out of them. So all of these are going to be indices into a table. Equals 3, comma, and we're going to go ahead and add the deed name as a comment, just so it's a little bit easier to understand. Great. And we're going to put that into our post processor, so it understands that those should be marked as not actively available. And what that's going to look like I assume these are real, and I assume these are limited time only, but I haven't actually checked on that either. One of the problems is there's no PVMP over on Treebeard. Okay, so we can see that these are limited time only. These have been updated. We can always change that again in the future if that is not true. And if you don't want to see these limited time only ones, there is a setting. Do not... where is it? Do not hide not actively achievable deeds. There we go. So, I like to do that anyway, just because if they're not actively available, then they might be currently available, but if so, I'm probably doing something actively to achieve them. Okay, awesome. What else? In the options, add option to control if server is enabled for Vanilla 9. Yep, we've seen that. Add option to control if landscape difficulty deeds are included for the current. Okay, let's double check that. These are going to be shown under class, and if we come up here and include landscape difficulty deeds, we can see add up the song and master of song, which require going to level 130, are not yet completed. Awesome. So, and then if I don't, they go away. Fantastic. Okay, that is great. Import. Fix bug that prevented importer from working with LOTRO companion data directories with extended characters. Yes. There was a person who had, let's say, an O with an umlaut or something in their character name, and that was causing problems on the importer, and we've fixed that. Removed outdated call to get vocation that added a large delay to the plugin load time. Fantastic. Let's come on in to the changes here and see what, if anything, needs to be committed. Okay, so this is an ordering thing. Something I noticed was the order of the deeds was incorrect underneath reputation. We can scroll down and show that. So, defeat each of the 9. That deed had a specific ordering for these that it would show up as those objectives. The order was wrong. So, we're going to go ahead and take that. We're also going to go ahead and close down any Excel spreadsheets we've had open. Okay. So, we're going to say fixed order avail of the 9 deeds. Updated, not marked, some deeds not actively available. Now we're kind of combining together multiple commits here, but it is a little late for that because some of these values are just going to change like that. But we can see not available. Yep. Fix some tiers. Fix some tiers. Awesome. So that's that. This was auto-generated, but nothing changed. That was auto-generated, but nothing changed. I don't like to commit timestamps of auto-generated changes if nothing else changed. So we can see when that file was last generated meaningfully. Okay. Right, this was some debug capability. So, in hunting down that issue, I was commenting out code here and there just to be like, okay, how long does it take to load the plugin if I only do nothing, or if I only do this? And I noticed that the unloading of the plugin assumed completion window was loaded, which is a fair assumption most of the time, but I had commented out the completion window, but hadn't uncommented out code that assumed it was there. And so I went ahead and added a little function that just says, is it going to be there? If I try to get the instance and say save uncleared deeds, is it going to be there? Now, maybe it's worth bailing out if the completion window doesn't exist. Maybe it's worth not saving things, but I get worried when I don't save things, or when something weird happens. So I'm not sure this is worth committing, this change here, because it was purely an artificial thing. And this change here was just to try to get a sense of how long it was taking for the plugin to load. And we can see now it's taking 0 to 1 seconds, so not very long. I only have 1 second resolution here on this timer. I need to remember how to do better than that, if it's possible. But I was just trying to get a gross sense of, a broad sense of how long it was taking. Okay, so don't take that, don't take that, don't take that. Okay, that's all of it. Awesome. So let's go ahead and start packaging this up. We're going to go ahead and stash in work stuff. And at that point, we now just are missing that message. And if we unload it, we can see everything is good. Loaded. Great. So, it is tempting to leave in the message saying it took X long to load if debug is on. Can we get milliseconds? I don't know, but there's a timer plugin. Tell me more. When in doubt, borrow from people who've done it better. Okay, so just coming in here, we can see that this might be a good place for a new, hey, Have you forgiven me for picking you up? Why do you always sit underneath me? That does not seem safe. Okay. Opening a folder. Sure. So this is importing all the stuff that we need. Oh, there's a milliseconds field. Neat. Here, let's, this is the get time function. Which is using total time. Okay. And it's passing get game time minus timer start time. Okay, timer start time is probably also being get game timed. Awesome. You're being weird, little one. Yeah, no, you're in full-on triple mode. Come here. She is very noisy when she... Yeah. You want to come over? Yeah. Okay. So we need two things. We need to presumably call get game time once. Yep. And then we need to call it again in a different invocation of our plugin. If your plugin's been called, you're going to get the same result for get game time, no matter how many times you call it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay. So simple solution is call it, create a control that says it wants updates, and then that won't fire until after you're done loading your plugin. Okay, so you know what? Let's play around with that for just a minute. So we're going to come on in here, back into fork, and we're going to apply that stuff back. We're gonna yank it back. And in main, what we want is save off initial load time for diagnostic message. And we're going to say this is deed tracker load started time equals, this is turbine dot engine get game time. Okay. Turbine dot engine dot get game time. Awesome. Now we don't necessarily need this print now thing. What we want instead is the local deed tracker load finished time equals turbine dot engine dot get game time. Now, if you're loading multiple plugins at the same time, like you've had LOTRO auto-load your plugins, the loading of the other plugins could potentially interfere with this kind of a timing. So if you want to know just how long your plugin takes, you can just hit the unload button, the load button. That gives you a sense of it. Maybe do it a couple times to average out irregularities. But if you're doing a login, you might expect to see a longer delay if LOTRO tries to load multiple plugins at the same time. It might just do one at a time, firing them off. I haven't tested that with this kind of a timestamping thing, though now that I say it, that's an interesting idea. Okay, so let's get inspired by this. We want to look at the get time function. Okay, it is just it is just doing some manual manipulation, that's fine. Cool. Local load time. And we should really put all this behind a debug flag. Fork. What does... Oh, it's in general function. Okay. We are looking at verbose output. Let's go ahead and do that. So, if settings verbose output, then do stuff. Otherwise, don't. Okay. Load time equals, and for this, load time finished minus started time. Fantastic. And at that point, we need to do similar logic to what this other plugin is doing. We have a number of seconds, and we want to turn it into hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds. Not really too concerned about the plugin taking hours, but that is what's going on. So for seconds and milliseconds, this seems... What an interesting way to do it. Anyway, so instead of using the print now function, we're going to just go to debug. Dtracker took load time seconds to load. Cool. Let's take a look at that. Oops. Okay, so set once updates to true. We now no longer need this print here. And time diagnostics section. So let's go ahead and unload. Let's go ahead and reload. And let's go ahead and turn on verbose logging and do a different reload. I was really hoping for something that wasn't a 0. Okay, what did I misunderstand, if anything? All right, let's borrow this and see if we understand it better. First of all, what do we think this is? A number. Sure. Local seconds equals load time modulo 3600 modulo 60. Local milliseconds equals load time modulo 60 modulo 1 times 1,000. I'm not convinced. What if we go back and we call the vocation? That would be funny. That would be a way to demonstrate this. Plugin functions, get class. Awesome. There we go. So my car get vocation. That is a way to really a nil value. Oh, right. I've already forgotten how that was happening. Get attributes. Get vocation. Fantastic. Okay. Well, this at least demonstrates the problem. Okay, so we can see we have a problem with what we are doing here. So, debug. And we'll get the finished one as well. Okay, so get game time is definitely returning the same, and this is confusing because I was definitely expecting if we're in the update that would give us a different value. So let's play around with this. So let's not do anything. Local has time passed equals get game time does not equal that. So if has time passed, then we can go ahead and do something. I'm concerned that I have a fundamental misunderstanding of how time works. Hey! Okay, so it wasn't happening on the first update. I'm kind of curious how many updates it took. So we're going to add an else. Else. Debug. Skipping. Update. Time does not exist. And we'll bring it back. Okay, so the first update was giving us the same time, but we can see after that, that's very strange. I don't think the seconds and milliseconds is doing what I wanted it to, and that's okay. What I do want, though, is to truncate that down to, say, 3 or so significant figures. All right, it's consistently taking 5 seconds to load under these current circumstances. We can go ahead and get rid of the skipping update. It is consistently 1 skip, so the second update, and that's fine. We could also, instead of checking to make sure time is, progressing, we could have also just counted. And if we were confident that the second update was going to be giving us correct values, we could just say, is this update number 2 using some sort of global variable? But I like what we're seeing here. And in fact, we can go ahead and only call get game time once. Yeah, in fact, we can go ahead and hoist both these out and say if load time, then do that. I think that should also work. He said optimistically. Okay, yeah. However, I feel like I'm trying to optimize something that really doesn't matter. Is it clear? On first call to update, the get game time returns the same value as the initial time. Wait until time has detectably passed. Sure. Okay. So I'm going to stop outputting those. I am curious if they have a formatting solution. Really? Yes, they do. They use %2. That's fine. So we're going to go ahead and do a string.format. And that is a %. How do you format just the decimal portion? Lua format number string. Okay, I can avoid the first two. Sure. And they're doing D because they're just doing numbers. We're going to go ahead and do F for a floating point value, 0.3F. And that will be load time. So load time. Let's give that a shot. Great. So we can see that was 5.6 seconds. Let's go ahead and reload one more time. .3, third time's the charm. 5.3. So we're seeing pretty consistently 5.3 seconds to do that load. But if we come on in here and go to this and discard that change, we're no longer calling get vocation, then loading it up takes 0.6 seconds. Loading it up takes 0.6 seconds. 0.6 seconds. So a disappointing 4.6 seconds of something happening whenever you call that get attributes get vocation call. And I do not know why, but I do know we don't need to do it anymore, so we're not going to do it. Okay. So what we have here then is a better diagnostics message. And so if you do not have verbose logging on and you reload the plugin, it just loads. And if you do have diagnostic plugin on, then it'll tell you. Oh, there it is. The tracker took however long seconds to load, down to 3 milliseconds, which is probably way more resolution than we need for this. Okay, I like that. I actually like that. So added verbose diagnostic for how long it takes the tracker to start up. Okay, now if load time is greater than 0, then we do go ahead and turn off the updates, set that to nil. If settings verbose will actually do the work to do the thing. Oh, we're not using these. They don't help us. And thank you for the inspiration timer plugin. ended up using very little anything from it, but it definitely guided us to get the right code in place, and I appreciate that. Okay. This is time diagnostics section. If verbose output is turned on, if it turns out verbose output is turned on, no, just if verbose output is turned on, print a message saying how long startup took. Awesome. I like it. Ship it. In fact, let's look at the README options. Added. What is this? Yeah. If verbose logging is turned on, the tracker now outputs a message once the plugin is loaded, showing how much time the load took. Awesome. Yeah, I know there was definitely a person in chat a few weeks ago who mentioned they were having long load times, and I'm super glad they did, because then I started checking mine, and when I'm just logging into a character, I don't really think about it. What's an extra 5 seconds? But when I was consistently noticing that, I was like, okay, something's going on here. And I thought, it's just too many deeds in the system. But fortunately, that was not the problem. Yet. Okay. So, how long it takes the tracker to start up. Awesome. And that is in README. Message, one plugin, cool. Still don't want that, still don't want that, still don't want that. Great. So we'll go ahead and stash the rest of that. Very cool. Reload. Oh, it's so good. And I'll be keeping an eye on that diagnostic message when I'm doing a full logging in with 10 different plugins loading, and I'm curious if I will see that number move around substantially from the about 2/3, 3/4 of a second we're seeing right now. All right. Thank you, timer. We're going to close that, and we're going to close that, and that's fine. Okay. All right, Hannah95, who posted that in 2021, you're awesome. Thank you so much for helping me through that particular problem. All right. Cherokee says, how's the coding been going? Pretty good. We were just working through making a diagnostic message that shows how long it took dtracker to load. In this case, we can see it took 0.734 seconds from the point where we got far enough into the code where we could spit out a message to the point where we were done loading things and could see that time had passed. And that's pretty cool. I like being able to see that now. That's only turned on if the verbose logging is turned on. So we're going to go ahead and walk through the release process for this. And my goodness, there's too many things open here. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the plugin along releases, and we have the old one, dtracker 314. So once again, we're going to go ahead and start with that as our base, so we can see what's changed between now, then and now. And then over here on the left, conceptually, we're going to start with plugins, Cube plugins, and well, first of all, what's up with this? The version has updated. Fantastic. And then plugin compendium. We were talking about this before. I'm not convinced that needs to be there. There's nothing particularly interesting in here. And I think the default generated one would be okay. So I'm going to try that as an experiment. I'm going to go ahead and delete that out of there and rely on the one that plugin compendium creates. And then we're going to go ahead and do a comparison to make sure we understand what's going into this release. Now, in subfolders, we can see data files have been updated. There's just too much to really do here, but we can see Dragon in the Storm comes in, Birding comes in. I'm still working on completing those on my character, my completionist. Monster Player Reward Season 1, the new Amelia Studying, and then Forester Competition was under not actively available, and I thought that was the wrong place to put it. So Forester Event is now here, the Hard Attack Crafting Event, Veil of the Nine, awesome. All that actually looks good, and that was pretty human understandable. So we're going to go ahead and bring that on over. And then these are categories for the deeds. That's pretty understandable. Awesome. The deed data is just lots of new data lines for all of those. The deed info strings. Oh, yeah, that's where we brought in birding or foho beobachtung. My apologies for that. And the ornithology. Fantastic. Deed lookup tables. We have the new birding section. Awesome. Deed names to IDs. This is where we do the lookup. When we see something in chat, we can go ahead and convert it into that internal ID. Fantastic. Deed objectives. This is how we get the auto-generated objective information for those. Fantastic. It's auto-generated, so hopefully it's correct. And if it's not, hopefully someone lets me know. And that's true about the deed data. These were auto-generated as well. Fantastic. Okay. I think for now that maintenance file is just for me because I want to improve that so much. Okay, here's the improvements to the hypertext application where we had issues with Unicode characters. And yeah, that's great. We're going to take all that. In main, here's the diagnostics timer that we just put together, taking advantage of the Turbine Engine get game time to save off a time, knowing that we had to wait until the future to get a different time. And in fact, I wonder if we could avoid saving that off entirely and just have it saved off in the updates. But I'm not gonna worry about it. It's not broken. But now I have curiosity. That's the only thing for main. We're gonna take it. Okay, in options, I wanted to go ahead and instead of passing true to a function, know that I was passing this. It's a server setting, nil callback, awesome. In fact, those were down here and they got moved up. Awesome. And we added the difficulty option. Oh, and Veil of the Nine. Awesome. All of that looks great. Plugin functions. Is deed not available? We went ahead and added a new not available capability, which was, oh, sorry, this was the old one. This was landscape difficulties. Landscape difficulties are now always available, so we needed to not necessarily exclude them for the not available. We added a new flag instead. However, I didn't have the time to kind of rework something different, so it's a not available landscape difficulty, which is, it's just, it was the smallest change I could get to make it work. Get vocation now is always 0, so we're not going to do anything more complicated than that. If anything in our code still calls get vocation, it still works, it just gets 0. Cherokee says, do you have to add the deed data manually, or does it automatically pull from game files and updates as the game updates? So far it is more of a manual process because a human, in this case me, kind of wants to choose things like ordering, things like are these actively available, or are they only available, like the leading the charge deeds, are they only available for a limited amount of time, and so that we should not penalize someone if they don't have it just because they didn't get it within a short amount of time. For me, the deed tracker is about, have you achieved the things that are reasonable to achieve, and not penalize you for things that, leading the charge for that thing, you had to be playing 3 years ago. There's no way you can complete that deed. Well, that kind of sucks if you are a completionist and you want to see those numbers approaching 100%. So a human needs to kind of make meaningful choices about how to organize these things. The hierarchical system is kind of automatable in that the data files do include this hierarchy information, but as we've seen with the birding deeds that just came out, the rarest birds in Breland is a sub-deed of both all the birds in Breland and the rarest birds in Eriador. So if we were to automatically place that under one of these two, we could get some inconsistencies. How do we decide which of those two it goes under, given that it is part of both of those deeds? It's a prerequisite for both of those deeds. And for me, it was more meaningful to group all the birds of Breland, common, uncommon, rare, and legendary, or the rarest, as they call it. And you'll see those colors in your chat as well as you're catching birds. You're going to see white, yellow, teal, and purple. White instead of yellow. You'll see white and I think cyan, purple, and gold for common, uncommon, rare, and rarest. But yeah, so how do you know if these 3Ds should go under here or if two of them should go under there? And one of them should go under the rarest birds of Eriador, even though the rarest bird in Ennevaith is a prerequisite of all the birds in Ennevaith. And so the current design of deed tracker is that the deed will show up under one other deed as a prerequisite. And if it's underneath other ones, then you just you show it in the tooltips here. Especially the experimental ones, where you can just say, let's tear that off. Oh, okay. So for this one, I need to complete the rarest bird in all of the lands over here, whereas all the birds in Breland, okay, I need to complete these three. So, right, there are certainly ways to display the information such that the same deed could appear in multiple occasions. Deed tracker does not do those things. Mostly because the deeds that I was familiar with when I was writing this were, I would say pretty much exclusively a strict hierarchy. This deed is only underneath this other one, which is only underneath this other one, which is only underneath this other one, and so on. Like Breland. Let's go ahead and not hide completed deeds. Like the deeds of Breland. The Flowers of the Old Forest is part of Explorer of Breland, which is part of Deeds of Breland. That's it, right? No more complications than that. So, as long as it's a human who's making decisions about, is this deed actually actually achievable in the game? Where should it go? How should it go? There's currently manual oversight to it. Now, if you want something that's a little bit more automatically generated, there is the LOTRO compendium. And the LOTRO compendium is here. And it has an endgame database with all this type of information well. In fact, let's go ahead and install it. I'll open up the LOTRO plugin compendium, written by the same author. The names are a little confusing. We're going to go ahead and add in the compendium. Thanks, Lunar Water. You have done awesome work. And it is installed, so we're going to come into the plugin manager, hit that green arrow, and go for compendium. And this is just, thank you, this is just pulled in from the data files, no human oversight, no ordering, it's just there. So if you want to come into the deeds and you wanted to search by bird, actually, maybe it hasn't been updated for that. If you wanted to search for, what are those new, defeat, okay. Oh, those aren't going to be in there either. probably. Wilderfolk. Like I say, I was expecting to see those. I guess it depends on when the last time it was pulled in. As you can see, there's 1,236 pages of results here, and it's entirely possible that I'm misunderstanding something. There we go, kindred with the all sorts of things. So this is what a system could. Yeah, Baz thinks it's old. I thought it was updated more recently. It was updated 2023. So uncertain. However, for the data that it does have, this is just what a straight up parse through the data files and add it to a .lua table. Oh, only the quest data. Thank you, Baz. And so, no knock to what Lunar Water has done here. It's pretty awesome if you're just looking for information about something, like fishy, very fishy. This will tell you that it's a scaling level, it's repeatable, it's in the Shire, in Hobbiton Bywater, with the Free Peoples. You can go to Flaubert Chub to get it. If you do it, you're an amazing angler. That's the title. It is automatically reading in that there are some prerequisites that is not true, but that's what the data file says, apparently. And it also has these objectives, right? The quest description. And note, the outcome is based on luck, and it's not affected by fishing skill. And if you want to add comments yourself, you can do that. You can note, this is impossible, or whatever. So, yeah, DTracker isn't trying to do this. It's trying to be a more visual representation of what's going on, a manually ordered thing. And so in that sense, yeah, there's a lot of manual work when importing these things. Not as much as there once was when I was just like copying it over from the wiki, more than I want to be because of some design decisions that were probably mistakes at the time. So that is the nature of things. Not Scum in chat says hello, hello. Okay, so we're happy with this. Vocation's always 0. We now have is a Veil of the 9 to identify those deeds, and is it a difficulty deed, and that's if the not actively available flag is set to 6. Then it's a difficulty deed. These are unnecessarily verbose functions. They could definitely be optimized to something much shorter, and that's somewhat intentional because it makes them much easier to add debug statements to it. Okay, then when we're getting deed skip info, we identify if it's fail 9, if it's difficulty. We know if we care about those things, and then we've commented out the vocation section completely. All of that looks great. So we're going to go ahead and take those plugin functions. I never really did anything with that, did I? We're going to delete that. Okay, README. This is just the 315 changes. Awesome. The reloader, I haven't shipped that yet. It's been very useful for my purposes, though. Okay, Veil of the 9 and difficulty. These are just for UI, for the options window. All right, not too much there, but very pleased to be getting this out today. So we can see a couple of files that are not being included. All of the website files, the source files, the Visual Studio Code files, Git files, none of those. So we are synchronized, and we're ready to go. Okay. So what we're going to do is come make a new zip file. And remember, when you're putting these zip files together for releases, you want to see your the subfolder that's going to be in the plugins directory. So that usually that's the author folder. Have no plugins, Cube plugins, whatever. So we want to see that same thing in our new zip file. So we want to back up one level to Cube Plugins and drag that in. And now our zip file is set up. Awesome. So we still need to prepare our forum codes, our LOTRO interface codes, but we are almost there. So coming on in to the websites, what do I call it? Website, there we go. We're going to come on in, let's see, older files. You know what? Yeah. It's starting to feel a little crowded in here. So we're going to drag those on in. Drag those on in. Now, do I need to keep these? No, but they're text files. They're tiny. It's fine. But let's go ahead and save that. So, removed unused readme.md. And moved some website files. Now, if you're using a modern tool like Git, it's going to recognize that this was a delete and this was an add, and therefore this is just a rename, and it's going to be able to link those files together so the version history can stay intact. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and duplicate LOTRO form description. We're going to go to 0.5. And we're also going to duplicate this one to be 0.5 as well. We're going to start with the LOTROinterface.com because that one we want to get going as soon as possible. Let's go ahead and look at this in word wrap mode. And we can go ahead and pull up that page as well so we can see what's going on. Awesome. So, what do we have? Introduction, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Here's how to automatically import them. Notes. This is outdated. See a mostly up to date description of the tracker's features at that. Okay. Installation, great. Oh, that should be fine. Known issues. Yeah, that's fair. Yep, those are all good. Okay, so we now have revision history. So 2024, whatever today is, September 3rd, version 3.1.5, added stuff. I like to go to the wiki for this. LOTRO wiki release, no, patch notes, maybe. Great. So, update 40, beneath the surface. Yep, I already had those. On the wing. Deeds. Great. Yeah, that's good. As a starting point, let's go back to the README. And we're just going to yank those out to a buffer so we can make sure we're capturing them. Okay, add on the ring. Resolved a performance problem during plugin load. Other various and some other changes. And we're going to go ahead and say the release notes are here. Again, we're just copying the previous link. We'll come back and update that after there is a post to point to. Okay, so we're all set. We are still logged in to lotrointerface.com, so we're going to scroll on down to the edit. We're going to 315. We're going to go ahead and replace 314 with deed tracker 315. And we're going to go ahead and just take this text that we've already prepared and replace what is there. I'm happy with the images, so we're going to go ahead and update. Fantastic. Now, there is a review period, so we're going to go ahead and come on over to the forums. And we want to do the same basic thing here. The tracker 315 is now available. This adds update 41 deeds and fixes and something. We'll come back to that and see if that description still feels correct. So 315, we are going to go ahead and outdent everything. And then add our open and close lists as appropriate. Cool. In fact, I'm going to stop with a word wrap because that mucks with this. All right, end list. So we're going to come back and we're going to go ahead and put that in all the places we need it. Because Sublime Text doesn't know I'm in markup mode, it is doing some weird stuff with the syntax. I wonder if I can fix that. What is the language option? I'm not sure. Syntax. I actually don't know what the syntax is, though. Yeah. Oh well. Okay, so list, close that, list, close that, close that, close that, close that, close that, close that. Awesome. And then we need the bullet points for each of the actual items. Fortunately, that one is easier. Okay. So, pretty happy with that. We're going to replace this here. And then, hey, people are liking that we released Festival Buddy. Yay. We're going to come on in here. We're going to do a reply to there. And we're going to go ahead and paste this in and check it out in the preview. This adds up to 41 deeds and fix a few other minor things. That was what I said. However, I feel like the vocation thing is yes, release and update 41 on the wing deeds. Awesome. Note to plugin developers. Calling. And then for this, I'm just going to come on back to here. And then I need to replace the myChar because that's just a variable. What does myChar equal? Calling get vocation on which is this. On my system, calling get vocation causes a 5 to 6 second delay before the client returns with 0. And that's the first time you call get vocation. The client, there is a 5 to 6 second delay before the client returns. It always, now that vocations have been removed, it always returns 0. I recommend against calling this function going forward. Okay, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and copy that into the forum. Post. Okay, so coming back to LOTRO interface, we can see this is currently waiting approval from file admin, but that's okay because we're not done yet. We need to go ahead and copy this link, coming back into the LOTRO interface description, and we're going to update that URL with the actual link, and then coming back and edit the text, changing nothing else, and update. Awesome. So we can then test that 315 points to the 315 entry. Awesome. So that's doing a release with an eye towards not automating everything, keeping an eye on what changes are going in. Do they make sense? Have we realized something in the meantime that would make an improvement? There's definitely ways to automate this release process where you just click a button and a zip file is produced, and maybe it even gets uploaded to LOTRO interface. But I do like having a little bit of supervision over it because I have made plenty of mistakes in the past where I committed something, I thought it was the correct thing at the time, and then later I was reviewing it and was very much like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Why is that in there? That shouldn't have been in there. And those are the kind of checks that you will lose if you automate everything. So code reviews can definitely be a way to move away from this kind of a manual review process. But for me, reviewing my code, I do that while we're committing it, but then seeing it again after a week, after a month, really helps, because then I've forgotten why I wrote it, and then I'm looking at it with fresher eyes and I can be like, well, that was a stupid way to write it. Why did I do that? Or maybe not stupid, but I've already come up with better ways to write it. So that's why I keep doing this process, even though there are some ways to streamline the release process. Okay. We're going to go ahead and save those changes there. And we do want to come back in on our system and say that is release 3.1.5 artifacts. Cool. And push those out, and then we can go ahead and tag that with 3.1.5. We'll go ahead and use the V. Consistency is nice. And we'll go ahead and push that tag out as well. And now it'll be easy to come back to that. Now, what of these changes do I care about? I don't actually care about this completion window thing, I don't think. That was a very temporary thing. And should be debug options. That's great. Okay. So minimize that, minimize that. Just to double check, everything still looks okay. We're able to load it up. Took 9 seconds to load. We are showing everything. If we go to something with almost no deeds and then reload, it'll take much less time. Yeah, 0.27 seconds. There's a definite proportional load time depending on how many deeds are on the page that you're looking at. So if we go to area door where there are 400, well, basically 500 deeds, and we do a reload, we can see that takes 0.5 seconds. Not bad. But if we tell it not to show completed deeds, and then we reload it, we can see it's 0.3 seconds because there's only 23 deeds being added to this. So it still has to go through all the deeds and think about them, but it doesn't have to create these UI elements. And that does take some tiny amount of time. Okay, so yeah, when I'm playing, I tend to have the hide completed deed options checked, both from a visual clutter perspective. Let's say we're in Western Gondor. If that's not checked, the more you work through an area, the more the information showing here is stuff you don't care about. It's stuff that's already in the past. And so what I like to do is hide those deeds, and then I can quite easily see what's going on. Quest of Tarling's Crown. I still need to go do that. And Dull Armoth City Watch. So much to do. Okay. So we've already gone past 2 hours, and I don't know if worried is the right word. I thought that might be the case. I thought there would be enough little edge cases and things to think about that would, just releasing those two would take the whole stream. So, while I think and ponder here, pause and ponder, now's a great time if you have any last minute questions, comments that you want to toss into chat. Now's a great time to do that. Otherwise, if we don't get to it, we will check in next time. Okay. What is going on? Okay. I've got my neckerchief like my goose. Excellent. Deed tracker. I'm super glad that we figured out what was causing that loading delay, because Deed tracker feels like a beast of a plugin. There's a lot going on. There's megabytes of files that need to be loaded. And so if your computer is maybe a little bit older, a little bit slower than mine is, which is totally fine, you might have issues when it comes time to ingesting, let's see, hundreds of kilobytes. 4 megabytes. 4 megabytes of files, loading the files, jamming them into data structures in memory, and then they persist in memory. So, yeah, if your computer struggles with Deed tracker, totally understand not having it running all the time. But hopefully, if you have been experiencing problems in the loading time of Deed tracker, you're going to come back and realize, oh, okay, that vocation thing helped a lot. Now it takes way less time to load. I'm hoping that's the case for anyone who was having trouble. All right. I am a little curious if it has updated. Yay! It is now available for download. So, if you are a Deed Tracker user, Deed Tracker 3.15 is now out. If you're a Festival Buddy user, Festival Buddy 2 user, version whatever it was, 2.1.3, that is now out. Thank you all for joining me on that release party, such as it is. All right. Well, with that, that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins, featuring the release of not one but 2 different plugins. I do hope to see you here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.